Welcome to Notable Approvals. I am attorney Amanda Shaffer. If you joined us this week or last week, you know that we've been discussing notable asylum and withholding approvals. And that is in anticipation of our live Q&A discussion that attorney Aaron Shapiro and I will be hosting next Thursday, September 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be answering your questions live about asylum and withholding of removal, and you can send us your questions in advance as well. So please like us, follow us on Facebook, set your reminders. You don't want to miss it. Today, however, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. Instead of talking about asylum, I want to talk about another case that we just got approved that is very exciting. It's actually two cases. Oh, and we will be back tomorrow, or maybe tomorrow, but probably Monday, with another asylum approval, notable asylum approval. So today's case, like I said, it's a husband and a wife. They are native and citizens of Nepal. This case is notable for a couple of different reasons. First and foremost, the husband had entered the U.S. in 2015 with an F1 student visa. He eventually changed status to TPS, or temporary protected status, from Nepal. And then eventually after that applied for a diversity visa. His wife, who's also from Nepal, had previously been in the U.S. On a student visa, and then left the U.S., went to Germany for grad school, and then came back to the U.S. in 2019 on a J-1 visa as a research scholar. So in 2019, they're not married yet, but they had been dating for like 5 years. Her husband applies for the diversity visa and wins. Her wife then comes to the U.S. from Germany in October, around the time that he found out he won the lottery. And they then got married, and he added her as a derivative on his diversity visa application so she can also get a green card. Now, the first thing that makes this case unique is that there are very few people who win the lottery and then do adjustment of status. Generally speaking, people who win the diversity visa lottery are outside the U.S. and they go through consular processing. The reason it's rare is because you cannot get a green card if you're in the U.S. if you fall out of status. And the diversity visa, you don't even know if you're going to get it. And it can, it's luck of the draw. So if you happen to be in the U.S. in a valid status and you win it, and your number comes up that you can file it, and all of those, you have to kind of have everything working for you. That's the rare times that you see an adjustment of status from a diversity visa. Otherwise, you're going to have to leave the country in order to get your visa to re-enter the U.S. with the visa and then become a permanent resident. So that was the first really unique thing about this case. Now, another important note on diversity visas is that you find out if you win the 2019 diversity visa lottery, actually I think it's a 2020 diversity visa lottery, in 2019. And you have to either adjust your status or have been issued your visa, if you're doing consular processing, by September 30th of that year. So which is in today, September 17th. So in 13 days, if you won the lottery and you haven't had your adjustment application approved, or you don't have a visa, immigrant visa, then you're out of luck. And that's very different than any other category of green card, where it could be pending for however long it's pending. It doesn't matter. You're not gonna have to. It doesn't automatically terminate if it goes past a certain date. So we had that time crunch to keep in mind. So as I said, his wife had entered as a J-1 visa, a research scholar, and she was subject to the 2-year foreign home residency requirement. And what that is for many J-1 visas, not all, after you're done in the U.S. with whatever you're doing or whatever the purpose was for coming here, you have to leave the U.S., go back to your home country for 2 years before you can return to the U.S. in any category. And that also covers changing status in the US. So you can't change status to another non-immigrant category or an immigrant category if you're subject to this requirement without a waiver. So we had to first deal with a waiver. Now, if you need a J-1 waiver, there are 5 or 6 different bases for waivers, and all but one of them, you have to have that approved before you can apply for your green card. Fortunately, in this case, we were using the one type of waiver that you can apply at the same time, and that's a no objection waiver. And what that is you're essentially asking your home country to waive the requirement that you have to go back there for 2 years. They're not really that difficult to get as long as the government isn't funding part of your trip to the US in any way, but you still have to get it approved. So we first got that approved, and then we weren't done yet with our hurdles. The next thing that we had to deal with was the fact of the possibility that USCIS would question the wife's non-immigrant intent. And the reason is, when she entered the US in October, she entered as a non-immigrant, meaning I'm only coming to the US for a certain period of time. When I'm done with my research, I'm going back. But she then took some actions within the 90-day period after her entry that could be seen as contradictory to her intent to stay here temporarily. And that is, she married someone who just won the diversity visa lottery. Now, if you marry a permanent resident or a US citizen within 90 days of your entry on a non-immigrant visa, there will be a presumption that you lied. In her case, there wasn't a presumption that she lied because he didn't have a green card yet, but it's certainly something that can be considered when USCIS is deciding the application. The other big hurdle that we had to deal with was that her research, the wife's research job was in New York, and the husband is in Boston. Now, they did travel back and forth and see each other pretty much every weekend. They financially supported one another. And they had been dating for like 5 years already. So it was definitely a real relationship, but the way USCIS might see it is he found out he was approved for the diversity visa, and all of a sudden he's married. So what we did was we made sure to address all of these issues up front. In our exhibit list, we put in a section for evidence of non-immigrant intent, even though that's not necessarily a requirement that you have to prove outright. And we put in evidence of good faith marriage, even though we weren't filing a marriage petition, because we anticipated the problem. And it worked, because not only were they both approved, they're both approved without an interview, which was amazing. I don't know if that's COVID or not, but I could tell you one thing. If we didn't put in all that extra evidence to address the problems that we knew would come up, there's no way it would be granted without an interview. So that is all today for notable approvals. I will be posting more information about our event next week, either today or tomorrow. So check back on our website and Facebook and all that stuff to look. And don't forget to join us on Thursday, September 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, and thanks for watching.